The school auditorium buzzed with excitement, the chatter of parents and students filling the air like a gentle hum. Chairs were arranged neatly in rows, and the polished wooden stage gleamed under the bright lights. The talent show had always been a big event in this town, a place where students could show their skills in singing, dancing, magic tricks, and playing instruments. Today, everyone seemed eager to see who would shine the brightest. Among the crowd of students waiting backstage, there was a boy who drew little attention at first. He was a little shorter than the other kids, his hair slightly messy and his clothes simple. His eyes, however, sparkled with determination. He had Down syndrome, a fact that made some people whisper and others glance at him with curiosity. He clutched a piece of sheet music, the edges worn from practice, and took deep, steady breaths. Every few seconds he adjusted his fingers as if silently reminding himself of the music he had worked on so many times before. In the audience, a few students snickered. "Do you think he can even play?" One of them whispered to a friend. Their laughter was quiet but sharp, slicing through the excitement like a small blade. Some parents exchanged glances, unsure whether to encourage or merely watch. The boy's presence was met with doubt, but not everyone shared it. His music teacher, standing to the side of the stage, gave him a small, reassuring nod, a silent message that he was ready and capable. When the announcer called his name, the laughter grew louder. Some students exchanged amused looks, leaning over to see if he would falter, but the boy walked up the steps to the stage steadily. Every step seemed to carry a weight of courage far beyond his years. His hands trembled slightly as he reached the piano, but he did not turn away. Instead, he straightened his back and gave a small nod to the audience, a subtle gesture of readiness. The crowd, mostly filled with familiar faces, continued to whisper and giggle. A few people whispered, "This is going to be funny," expecting the boy to struggle. The boy sat down on the piano bench, his eyes scanning the keys, remembering the countless hours he had spent practicing in quiet rooms at home. His fingers hovered over the keys, almost hesitating, almost timid. Yet there was an unspoken promise of determination in the way he held himself. From the back of the auditorium, a group of students murmured, "Maybe he can't even find the first note." The boy heard them. Most kids would have crumbled under the pressure of mockery, their confidence shattered in seconds. But he took a deep breath, closed his eyes for a brief moment, and let the world fade away. In that quiet pause, only the music existed in his mind. He remembered the evening spent with his mother at home, who had never doubted him, and the music teacher who had patiently guided his fingers, showing him how to express emotion through each note. The boy thought about the songs he loved, about the gentle melodies that made him smile and feel alive. Those memories anchored him in the moment, giving him strength. He opened his eyes slowly, letting them sweep over the audience. Some faces were curious, some skeptical, and some genuinely smiling. Unaware of the whispers around them, he positioned his fingers carefully over the keys, feeling the cool surface beneath them. He could hear the faint hum of the crowd, a mix of expectation and doubt, but he blocked it out. Each note was a promise he had made to himself, a message that he was more than the whispers and laughter. As his fingers pressed the first key, a soft, clear note filled the auditorium. The sound was delicate yet precise, drawing a subtle hush over the crowd. People turned their heads, surprised. The boy's fingers moved with gentle confidence, hitting each note with care, forming a simple but beautifully played melody. The laughter stopped for a moment, replaced by a ripple of curiosity. The students who had been snickering leaned forward, unsure of what they were witnessing. The boy's eyes flicked briefly toward his music teacher, who smiled encouragingly. That smile was enough to give him courage. He continued playing, letting the music flow naturally. Each chord carried a piece of his heart, every note reflecting hours of practice and moments of pure joy at discovering the power of sound. The audience, slowly at first, began to listen. Parents stopped whispering, students stopped smirking, and even the doubters felt the room shift in a subtle, undeniable way. From the back row, a student nudged a friend, whispering, "Hey, he's actually good." Another added, "I didn't think he could do that." The boy continued to play, completely absorbed in the music, his focus unwavering. His emotions poured into the piano, each note a story of persistence, courage, and passion. The sound was not just correct, it was expressive, heartfelt, and alive. He played not for the audience, not for the applause, but for the music itself. And in that honesty, the audience began to recognize something extraordinary. The laughter that had greeted him moments ago seemed like a distant memory. The boy's performance, simple yet beautiful, had transformed the atmosphere. The stage lights reflected off his determined face, highlighting the quiet intensity in his expression. Every keystroke was deliberate, every pause meaningful. For the first time, the audience was no longer seeing the boy as someone to mock. They were seeing a young musician sharing a piece of his soul. Behind the scenes, other students who had doubted him whispered in awe, "He's amazing." Even the announcer, who had been expecting a light-hearted act, paused in admiration. The boy's mother, sitting in the audience, held her breath, tears forming in her eyes as she watched her child shine in a way that no one had anticipated. She had always known his talent, always believed in his potential, but seeing it unfold publicly brought an overwhelming mix of pride and emotion. The final note lingered in the air, resonating through the auditorium like a gentle echo. The boy lifted his hands from the keys, breathing heavily but smiling faintly, a quiet expression of accomplishment. For a moment, the room was silent, the audience collectively stunned by what they had just witnessed. The boy had faced doubt, laughter, and mockery, and he had responded not with anger or frustration but with music that spoke louder than any words could. Then, slowly, the applause began. At first, a few hesitant claps, then more and more until the auditorium erupted in cheers. Students who had laughed moments before were now clapping enthusiastically. Teachers and parents stood up, some wiping tears from their eyes. The boy's music teacher came forward, clapping the hardest, pride shining on their face. The boy stood a little awkwardly but proud. He had faced fear and judgment and had come out shining, not just for himself but for everyone watching. In that moment, the boy realized something important. It wasn't just about playing the piano. It was about showing courage, showing that limitations existed only in the minds of those who doubted. He had transformed laughter into admiration, skepticism into respect. And as he looked out at the smiling, cheering audience, he knew that this was just the beginning. He had taken the first step, and it was a step that no amount of doubt could ever erase. The applause continued as he walked off the stage, his heart racing but filled with joy. Backstage, the other students gathered around offering congratulations. Some were shy, some amazed, but all were touched by what they had seen. The boy's mother hugged him tightly, whispering how proud she was, while the music teacher offered a proud, knowing smile. It had been a moment of triumph, not just in talent but in spirit. As he left the auditorium later that evening, the boy felt a quiet sense of accomplishment. He had faced the world's laughter and emerged stronger. He had shared something beautiful, and in doing so had shown that everyone has a unique light inside them, waiting for the chance to shine. And though the night was over, he knew that the journey was only beginning. With many more melodies to play, many more hearts to touch, and many more moments to inspire. After the applause died down, the boy took a quiet seat in the corner of the auditorium, still feeling the rhythm of the music in his chest. His fingers twitched slightly, as if missing the keys they had just played. Though he had finished the performance, the echo of the notes still filled his mind, carrying a mix of pride, relief, and excitement. The audience was dispersing, but the energy lingered, buzzing softly in the air, and he felt it settle in him like a warm blanket. He thought about all the times he had been told he could not do something because of his condition. At school, some classmates had avoided him, some had teased him, and some had simply underestimated his abilities. Those experiences had shaped him in a quiet way. They made him determined, made him focus harder, practice longer, and keep believing in himself even when others did not. Today, as he sat back and let the applause replay in his mind, he realized that for the first time, people had seen not the diagnosis, but the person. The music teacher walked over and gently placed a hand on his shoulder. "You did wonderfully," they said, voice filled with warmth and pride. The boy looked up, a faint smile spreading across his face. The teacher continued, "I have seen you practice for months, and now the world has seen what I've always known. You have something very special." The boy's chest swelled with pride, yet he remained humble. He had known he loved music. But hearing someone else affirm it in such a heartfelt way felt different, almost magical. Backstage, other students who had initially laughed now approached hesitantly, some unsure of what to say. I didn't think you could play like that," one of them admitted softly. The boy nodded politely, grateful for the acknowledgement but not needing to boast. Another student, eyes wide, added, You were amazing. I never thought I'd see someone play like that." Each comment, each small gesture of respect, was like a brick being laid in the foundation of his confidence. Outside the auditorium, parents and teachers continued to talk in small groups, their conversations filled with admiration. "Did you see him? The way he played the chords, the emotion he put into it, unbelievable. I can't believe we underestimated him. He's a true musician." The boy overheard snippets of conversation as he walked quietly through the hallways. He felt a mix of happiness and disbelief. People were seeing him for what he could do, not what they thought he could not. At home that evening, he sat at the small piano in the living room, replaying the piece he had performed. His mother watched from the couch, smiling proudly. "You were wonderful today," she said, her voice full of emotion. He smiled softly, glancing at her. He wanted to tell her how nervous he had been, how much he had feared the laughter, but words seemed unnecessary. The music had already said it all. In the quiet of the room, he played again, not for anyone else, but for himself, exploring the melody, discovering little variations he hadn't noticed before. Each note felt alive, each chord carried emotion. Days passed, and the performance became a story that circulated quietly among the students at school. People who had initially doubted him now watched differently. They paid attention when he walked into the classroom, some offering small nods of respect, others whispering about his talent. The boy noticed, but he did not let it change him. He remained humble, grounded, and focused on the music that brought him joy. The recognition was new and exciting, but it did not define him. The music did. In the music classroom, the teacher gave him more challenging pieces to practice. "I want to see what you can do next," the teacher said, eyes sparkling with excitement. The boy nodded eagerly. Each new piece was a puzzle, a way to test his limits and grow. He spent hours practicing, sometimes slowly, sometimes letting the music flow freely as he improvised. Each session was filled with determination and focus. He discovered the beauty of discipline and the joy of expressing himself through music. He realized that the piano was not just an instrument, it was a companion, a friend, and a voice he could use to communicate feelings that words could never capture. One afternoon, the boy's mother invited a few neighbors over to hear him play. She wanted them to experience what she had always known. At first, they were curious, unsure what to expect. But as he began to play, the room fell into silence, everyone drawn into the melody. The notes flowed effortlessly, each one carrying depth and feeling. When he finished, there was a brief pause, then an eruption of applause and praise. The boy felt a warm glow in his heart. Music had the power to touch people, to bridge gaps, and to transform doubt into admiration. Word of his talent gradually spread beyond the school and neighborhood. Teachers from other schools heard about the boy who had stunned an auditorium. Parents shared the story with friends, and eventually, local news outlets picked up the tale. The boy's story was no longer just his own. It had become a message of hope and inspiration for many. People began to recognize that talent and determination were not limited by physical or mental differences. The boy's performance had challenged assumptions, opened hearts, and shifted perceptions. Despite the growing attention, the boy remained focused on the music itself. He continued to practice daily, exploring new pieces, experimenting with different styles, and honing his technique. Each session was an opportunity to learn, to grow, and to express himself. Music had become his language, a way to convey emotions that were too deep for ordinary words. His dedication inspired others as well. Students at school who struggled with confidence, who faced ridicule or self-doubt, began to look up to him. They saw how he transformed challenges into triumphs and found courage in their own lives. The boy's journey was not without challenges. Some days the fingers did not move as precisely as he wanted, or the rhythm seemed off. Frustration occasionally crept in, but he had learned to face it with patience and persistence. His mother and teacher reminded him gently that mistakes were part of learning, that even the greatest musicians had struggled at times. The boy listened, nodded, and tried again. Each setback became a lesson, each challenge an opportunity to improve. Slowly, steadily, he grew more confident, more skilled, and more expressive. In the evenings, the boy sometimes sat by the window, reflecting on the journey that had brought him here. He thought about the laughter he had faced, the skepticism of others, and the doubts he had once carried in his own heart. He realized that every challenge had shaped him, had taught him resilience, patience, and the importance of believing in oneself. The piano had become a symbol of that journey, a tangible expression of his courage and determination. And with each note he played, he felt a quiet sense of fulfillment, knowing he had the power to touch hearts and change perceptions. As the weeks went by, the boy was invited to play at small community events, school functions, and local gatherings. Each performance was an opportunity to share his gift, to connect with people, and to inspire. The once skeptical audience members became admirers, parents praised his dedication, and fellow students looked to him as a role model. The boy continued to shine, not because he sought attention, but because his love for music was genuine and unwavering. Through it all, the boy remained humble, grounded, and kind. He remembered the moments of laughter, the whispers of doubt, and the fear he had felt stepping onto the stage for the first time. Those memories became a quiet source of strength, a reminder of how far he had come and what he had overcome. He knew that true courage was not the absence of fear, but the decision to face it and continue despite it. The music room became a sanctuary, a place where the boy could explore, experiment, and grow. He tried different pieces, from classical compositions to modern melodies, and discovered the joy of improvisation. Each day brought new discoveries, new challenges, and new moments of triumph. The piano had become more than an instrument. It was a friend, a teacher, and a bridge to the world around him. And in the quiet moments, when the keys resonated with his heart, the boy felt a sense of peace and purpose that words could never capture. The boy awoke the next morning with a sense of anticipation that made him restless. He had been practicing diligently for months, and now the praise and recognition from the talent show filled his mind. He could not wait to return to the piano, to explore the music he loved, and to continue improving. Breakfast was quiet. His mother watched him with a gentle smile, knowing that his thoughts were already dancing over melodies and rhythms. She had always supported him, but lately, she had seen a change, a spark in his eyes, a new confidence that came from being seen and appreciated for who he truly was. At school, whispers and glances followed him in the hallways. Some students still had doubt in their eyes, unsure how to respond to the boy who had stunned everyone with his piano performance. Others approached with curiosity and admiration. "Can you play for us again sometime?" one student asked nervously, almost shyly. The boy nodded with a small smile, feeling a warmth in his chest. It was different from the attention he had received before. This was genuine interest, not mockery. In the music room, the boy spent hours working on a new composition his teacher had given him. The piece was more challenging than anything he had attempted before, filled with fast passages, delicate chords, and intricate timing. At first, his fingers fumbled over the keys, uncertain and hesitant. But he persisted, slowing down, practicing each measure until it felt comfortable, until it flowed naturally. With each repetition, his confidence grew. He discovered new textures in the music, subtle shifts in emotion, and the beauty of expressing something beyond words. The boy loved the piano not just for the notes, but for the way it allowed him to share his feelings. When he played, he felt alive, free, and connected to something greater than himself. The room was filled with sound, the music flowing over him like a river, carrying his worries and transforming them into harmony. He played softly, loudly, and in every nuance in between, exploring the instrument with curiosity and joy. Time passed unnoticed. Hours melted into minutes as he immersed himself fully in the art he loved. At lunchtime, a few students gathered around him, hesitant at first but gradually more comfortable. "You're playing yesterday? It was incredible," one said. Another added, "I didn't know you could do that. I want to learn more from you." The boy listened, quietly appreciating their words. He shared tips and simple advice, careful to be patient and encouraging. Some students started practicing with him, discovering that music could bring people together, could break down barriers, and could create a sense of belonging. The boy found joy in teaching, in guiding others, and in seeing their faces light up when they mastered a new melody or chord. That afternoon, the school principal asked to speak with him privately. The boy followed, curious but calm. The principal smiled warmly and said, "Your performance has inspired so many. We'd like to feature you in a special school concert next month. It's a big opportunity to share your talent with the community." The boy's eyes widened slightly. He had performed in front of students and parents before, but this was different. This was an acknowledgement of his skill, a chance to reach even more people. Though nervous, he felt a surge of excitement and determination. He agreed without hesitation, eager to take the next step in his musical journey. Over the next few weeks, the boy practiced relentlessly. Each day brought new challenges, new notes, and new techniques to master. Sometimes he stumbled, hitting a wrong key or losing rhythm, but he learned to forgive himself and try again. His mother encouraged him gently, reminding him that even the best musicians faced difficulties. The music teacher offered guidance, demonstrating how to approach difficult sections and how to interpret the music with emotion. Slowly but surely, the boy's playing became more confident, expressive, and powerful. He discovered the importance of patience, focus, and self-belief. The anticipation of the upcoming concert filled him with both excitement and anxiety. He would perform in front of a much larger audience this time, including teachers, parents, and community members who had never seen him play. The thought made his heart race, but he reminded himself that music was his voice, his way to communicate, and that he had worked hard to reach this point. Each practice session became a rehearsal, not just for the concert, but for proving to himself that he could rise to any challenge. One afternoon, while practicing a particularly difficult section, the boy felt frustrated. His fingers seemed stiff, his mind distracted. He paused, leaning over the piano, taking deep breaths. His mother entered quietly, sitting beside him. "Remember," she said softly, "it's okay to struggle. Music is not about perfection. It's about expression. Take your time, feel the notes, and let your heart guide you." The boy nodded, closing his eyes briefly. When he returned to the keys, the music flowed more naturally. He discovered a new rhythm, a subtle variation that made the piece feel alive and personal. In that moment, he realized that music was not just about technique, but about emotion, about sharing a piece of himself with the world. As the day of the concert approached, excitement and nervousness intertwined. The boy rehearsed repeatedly, sometimes alone, sometimes with his teacher, refining every detail. He imagined the audience, picturing faces filled with anticipation, some curious, some skeptical, and some already supportive. He reminded himself to focus on the music, to let it guide him, and to play with the same heart he had in every practice session. The more he imagined performing, the more confident he became. Each note became a promise to himself, a statement of courage and determination. Finally, the day arrived. The auditorium was filled with people from the community, buzzing with curiosity and excitement. The boy waited backstage, feeling a familiar mixture of nerves and anticipation. The bright stage lights glimmered, the polished piano waiting for his fingers. His mother squeezed his hand, offering silent encouragement while his teacher gave a reassuring nod. He took a deep breath, steadying himself, reminding himself of the countless hours of practice and the love he had for music. When the announcer called his name, a hush fell over the audience. Some whispered, "I can't wait to hear him," while others remained skeptical. The boy walked to the piano, each step carrying quiet determination. He sat down, positioning his fingers over the keys. For a moment, silence enveloped the room. Then he pressed the first key, a clear, soft note that rippled through the hall. The music began, slowly at first, building with emotion and intensity. Each chord, each note was deliberate, expressive, and full of life. The audience was captivated. Those who had doubted him moments ago leaned forward, eyes wide, mouths slightly open in astonishment. Parents whispered to each other, marveling at the boy's talent. Students who had once laughed or teased him now watched in awe. The boy continued, fully immersed in the music, allowing his heart to guide each phrase. The melodies flowed effortlessly, filled with nuance and feeling. Every note seemed to tell a story of resilience, courage, and passion. The room was silent, save for the music. Every listener held in the boy's spell. As the piece reached its crescendo, the boy's fingers moved with precision and grace, each note building on the last. The audience could feel the emotion radiating from the piano. The dedication and love poured into each chord. When he played the final note, it lingered in the air, a beautiful echo that seemed to hang over the hall. The room remained still for a moment, absorbing the power of what they had just witnessed. Then, as if on cue, applause erupted. It was thunderous, genuine, and overwhelming. People rose to their feet, cheering, clapping, and whistling in admiration. The boy looked up, his face lighting with a shy, proud smile. He had once again turned doubt into wonder, mockery into admiration, and fear into triumph. Backstage, the boy's teacher and mother hugged him tightly, their pride evident. Fellow students crowded around, offering congratulations and expressions of amazement. The boy felt a warm glow of accomplishment, a deep sense of fulfillment that went beyond recognition. Music had allowed him to speak, to share, and to connect in a way nothing else could. He had faced challenges, persevered through doubt, and emerged stronger and more confident than ever. And as the applause continued to echo in the auditorium, he realized that this was only the beginning of a journey that would continue to shape his life and inspire those around him. After the concert, the boy felt a mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. The applause had been overwhelming, the admiration and praise touching in ways he had never experienced before. Backstage, he sat quietly for a moment, letting the noise of the hall fade into a gentle hum. The music he had played still lingered in his mind, each note a reminder of the hours he had spent practicing, the dedication he had poured into his craft, and the courage it had taken to step on stage despite doubt and mockery. His mother gently held his hand, whispering words of pride and love, and he felt a warmth spread through him. He had done more than perform a piece of music. He had shared a part of himself with the world. The days following the concert were filled with congratulations and new opportunities. Teachers, parents, and students approached him with smiles, asking questions about his technique, his inspiration, and his experiences. Some of the students who had laughed at him before now sought his guidance, eager to learn and to understand how he could play with such emotion and skill. The boy welcomed their curiosity, patiently sharing tips and demonstrating small passages, happy to encourage others who wanted to grow in music. The atmosphere at school began to shift. Where there had been doubt and whispers, there was now respect, admiration, and an unspoken recognition that the boy's talent and courage could not be ignored. He continued to practice diligently, using the music room at school and the piano at home as places to refine his skills and explore new compositions. Each day brought new challenges, faster pieces, more complex chords, and intricate melodies that tested his concentration and dexterity. At first, he struggled with some of the more difficult sections, his fingers tripping over notes and his timing faltering, but he approached each obstacle with patience and determination, understanding that mastery came through persistence and care. He learned to listen closely, to feel the music, and to express emotion through every keystroke. One afternoon, as he practiced a particularly challenging piece, he felt a sudden rush of frustration. His fingers stumbled repeatedly over a fast passage, and for a moment he felt discouraged. He leaned over the piano, taking deep breaths to calm himself. His mother, noticing his struggle, approached quietly. "It's okay," she said softly. "Every musician faces moments like this. Take your time. Feel the music. Let it guide you." Her words were comforting, and the boy nodded, returning to the keys with renewed focus. Slowly, steadily, the notes began to flow smoothly, and he discovered subtle variations that made the piece even more expressive than before. The music became a living thing, responding to his emotions and guiding his hands with grace. Word of his talent began to spread beyond the school. Parents from other schools, community members, and even local music enthusiasts heard about the boy who had stunned audiences with his piano skills. Invitations to perform at small community events and school functions began to arrive. Each performance was an opportunity not just to play but to inspire, to show others that limitations existed only in the minds of those who doubted. The boy approached each new opportunity with humility and focus, determined to do his best and share his love for music with as many people as possible. With each performance, the boy's confidence grew. He learned to handle the pressure of larger audiences, to maintain his concentration despite distractions, and to express emotion in a way that moved listeners. He discovered that music was more than just notes on a page. It was a language, a way to communicate feelings and stories that words could never fully capture. He played not for recognition, but for the joy of sharing a piece of himself and connecting with others through the universal language of sound. At school, other students began to see him in a new light. The ones who had once mocked him now approached with respect and curiosity. Some asked to practice with him, eager to learn from someone who had achieved something extraordinary through dedication and heart. The boy welcomed their questions, patiently demonstrating techniques, offering encouragement, and sharing his passion for music. He realized that his talent had the power to inspire, to build confidence in others, and to create a sense of community where once there had been doubt and division. His music teacher noticed the change as well. "You have grown so much," the teacher said one afternoon, smiling. "Your skill is remarkable, but what is even more special is your ability to inspire others. You are showing everyone that courage, dedication, and passion matter more than anything else." The boy listened quietly, feeling a mixture of pride and humility. He had never sought recognition, but he understood that his journey could be meaningful for others, that his music could encourage people to believe in themselves and pursue their dreams. One evening, after a long day of practice, the boy sat at his piano at home and reflected on the journey that had brought him here. He thought about the laughter he had faced, the doubts of others, and the fear he had felt stepping onto the stage for the first time. He realized that each challenge had strengthened him, teaching him resilience, patience, and the importance of believing in himself. The piano had become more than an instrument. It was a companion, a teacher, and a bridge to the world around him. With every note, he expressed something deep within, something that connected with the hearts of those who listened. As weeks turned into months, the boy continued to perform at community events, school functions, and small competitions. Each time, the audience was captivated by his skill, emotion, and courage. Parents, students, and teachers praised his dedication, noting how he transformed challenges into triumphs. The boy, however, remained grounded, focused on the music itself rather than the accolades. He understood that true fulfillment came from the act of creating, sharing, and connecting, not from recognition alone. During one particularly important performance at a local cultural festival, the auditorium was filled with people who had never seen him play before. The boy felt a familiar mix of nervousness and anticipation. As he approached the piano, he reminded himself to focus on the music, to let it guide his hands and heart. He pressed the first key and the sound rippled through the hall. The audience fell silent, captivated by the clarity, precision, and emotion of his playing. Each note told a story. Each chord expressed a feeling, and every phrase carried a piece of the boy's journey. The listeners were mesmerized, experiencing the music not just with their ears, but with their hearts. As the performance reached its climax, the boy's fingers danced across the keys with confidence and grace. The audience was fully engaged, leaning forward, holding their breath, and absorbing the depth of emotion in the music. When the final note lingered in the air and faded, there was a moment of stunned silence. Then the hall erupted in applause, cheers, and standing ovations. The boy smiled, a mix of humility and pride shining on his face. He had faced doubt, ridicule, and fear, and he had responded with courage, dedication, and beauty. Backstage, his mother hugged him tightly, her eyes filled with tears of pride. His music teacher beamed, knowing that the boy's journey was far from over, but that he had already achieved something remarkable. Students and audience members approached, expressing admiration and gratitude. The boy realized that his music had touched lives, inspired others, and created a sense of connection that transcended words. He understood that the journey would continue with new challenges, new performances, and new opportunities to share his gift with the world. In the quiet of the evening, the boy returned to the piano at home, playing softly, exploring new melodies, and improvising with freedom and joy. Each note was a reminder of how far he had come, how much he had overcome, and how much potential still lay ahead. Music had become more than a talent. It was a voice, a language, and a source of strength and courage. And as he played, the boy knew that he was ready for whatever challenges and opportunities awaited him, confident in the knowledge that dedication, passion, and heart would always guide his journey. As time passed, the boy's journey with music continued to grow and evolve. Each day brought new challenges, new opportunities, and new moments of discovery. He remained dedicated to his practice, always eager to explore new pieces and develop his technique. The piano had become more than an instrument. It was a companion, a source of comfort, and a way to express emotions that words could not capture. The boy found peace and joy in playing, and that joy radiated outward, touching everyone who listened. Word of his talent continued to spread throughout the community. People who had once doubted him began to see him in a new light. Parents, teachers, and fellow students recognized the dedication, courage, and passion that had carried him this far. Invitations to perform at local events, charity functions, and school gatherings arrived regularly. The boy accepted each one with humility and focus, seeing every performance as an opportunity to share his gift, inspire others, and challenge the limits that society often placed on those with differences. At school, he became a role model for other students. Those who had once teased him began to approach with curiosity and respect. Some asked for lessons, wanting to learn from someone who had achieved so much through perseverance and heart. The boy welcomed them with patience and encouragement, sharing his knowledge and showing them that dedication and practice could lead to success. His influence extended beyond music. He inspired students to face their own fears and embrace their abilities, regardless of what others might say. The music teacher continued to guide him, providing more advanced pieces and techniques to challenge him. The boy embraced each lesson with enthusiasm, eager to grow and improve. He discovered new styles, experimented with different genres, and began to compose his own melodies. Every day was a learning experience, and every note played was a step forward in his journey. The piano became not just a tool for expression, but a path for personal growth, teaching him patience, resilience, and the beauty of self-discipline. Outside of school, the boy's story inspired the wider community. Local newspapers, radio stations, and social media shared his performances, highlighting his talent and courage. People admired his ability to overcome obstacles and showcase his abilities despite the challenges he faced. Families with children who had disabilities looked to him as an example, finding hope and encouragement in his achievements. Teachers used his story to teach lessons about perseverance, empathy, and the importance of believing in oneself. The boy's journey had become more than a personal triumph. It was a beacon of inspiration for many. One day, the boy received an invitation to perform at a regional music competition. It was a significant opportunity, attracting participants from various schools and communities. The boy felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. He knew the competition would be challenging, but he also understood that it was another chance to share his love for music and to inspire others. With the support of his mother and teacher, he prepared diligently, practicing for hours, refining every note and perfecting every phrase. Each session brought new insights and a deeper connection to the music. On the day of the competition, the boy felt the familiar rush of anticipation as he stepped into the large auditorium. The audience was filled with students, parents, teachers, and music enthusiasts. He took a deep breath, remembering the countless hours of practice, the challenges he had overcome, and the joy he found in playing. With steady hands and a focused mind, he approached the piano and began to play. The music flowed effortlessly, capturing the hearts of everyone present. The audience was captivated, drawn into the melodies, rhythms, and emotions that the boy expressed with every keystroke. His performance was not only technically impressive, but emotionally powerful. Every note carried meaning, every chord expressed a story. The audience listened in silence, completely absorbed by the music. When the final note resonated through the hall and faded into a gentle echo, there was a moment of stunned silence. Then applause erupted, filling the auditorium with a wave of admiration and excitement. The boy smiled, a quiet mix of pride and humility in his expression. He had once again turned doubt into awe and fear into inspiration. Following the competition, the boy received recognition for his talent and dedication. Judges praised his technical skill, emotional expression, and ability to connect with the audience. He had not only competed but left a lasting impression on everyone present. Invitations to perform at other events and functions followed, each one an opportunity to continue sharing his gift and inspiring others. The boy accepted these opportunities with grace and focus, always remembering that music was his true passion and purpose. Throughout all of this, the boy remained humble and grounded. He never sought attention or praise for himself. Instead, he focused on the joy of playing, the thrill of learning, and the connection he could create through music. He continued to practice daily, exploring new pieces, experimenting with improvisation, and developing his own style. Each day was a new adventure, a chance to discover something new about the piano, about music, and about himself. His mother continued to support him in every way, attending performances, helping with practice, and offering encouragement and guidance. The music teacher remained a steadfast mentor, providing challenges, advice, and inspiration. Together, they created an environment where the boy could thrive, grow, and reach his full potential. The boy understood that their support was invaluable, and he felt gratitude and love for the people who had believed in him from the beginning. As the boy's reputation grew, so did his influence. Students at his school began to pursue their own interests with renewed dedication, inspired by his example. Teachers noticed a change in the classroom dynamic, with more encouragement, empathy, and collaboration among students. Parents spoke of the boy's story as a reminder that determination and passion could overcome obstacles. The community began to celebrate his achievements, recognizing the impact that one person's dedication and courage could have on many. Despite the growing attention and recognition, the boy never lost sight of what was truly important. Music remained at the center of his life, a source of joy, comfort, and expression. He continued to explore, experiment, and perform, always seeking to grow and improve. The piano had become a voice, a friend, and a guide, helping him navigate challenges, express emotions, and connect with others in profound ways. Each performance, each practice session, and each new composition reinforced his love for music and his commitment to sharing it with the world. Looking back on his journey, the boy realized how far he had come. From the first time he stepped onto the stage, facing laughter and doubt, to performing in front of large audiences and inspiring others, he had grown in confidence, skill, and courage. He had learned that perseverance, dedication, and heart could overcome obstacles, and that talent was not limited by labels or expectations. The boy understood that his story was not just about music. It was about hope, resilience, and the power of believing in oneself. As he continued to play, the boy felt a sense of purpose and fulfillment that went beyond recognition or applause. He knew that his journey would continue, with new challenges, new performances, and new opportunities to inspire others. The piano remained a constant companion, a source of joy and a way to share his heart with the world. And in every note he played, he carried a message. That courage, dedication, and love for what you do can overcome doubt, transform lives, and leave a lasting impact on everyone who listens.